Welcome to our virtual meetup. I'm going to talk about logistics a little bit, and then we'll dive into today's topic. So if you have a question, please use the Q&A button, or you can send that to us on chat. What we usually do is we'll have the presenter run through her PowerPoint, and then we'll have the Q&A once she's done. So Minerva will take about 20 minutes to do her presentation, and then we'll do Q&A. But if you have questions during the presentation, you can still send those to us using the Q&A button. With that, I'm just going to wait for Minerva to come back on video, then we get started. Thank you for joining. All right, so today's topic is a very, very important one. We're going to talk about artificial intelligence for breast cancer screening. And our speaker today is Minerva Panda. Minerva is a research engineer at Minerva, based in India. They're working on early detection of breast cancer using AI and machine learning. Prior to Minerva developed an interactive visual analytics application for doctors to understand and explore patient population and health trends. Minerva's research interest is in using computer science, artificial intelligence, with a focus on medicine and healthcare. Minerva has also led the Women Tech Makers community in India, which is a Google's program to provide visibility, community, and resources for women in technology. Minerva was invited to attend I/O, which is Google's annual conference at Mountain View, California. So we're so glad that Minerva has joined us today. I know it's quite early in India, so we truly appreciate that you're able to join us, Minerva. And
Thanks, Pramod. This is a wonderful opportunity. Yeah. Am I audible, Pramod? Can we get started?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone. So I'm Minerva, as Pramod already introduced me. So I work as a research associate with a specialization in the machine learning team at Minerva. So we are a breast cancer screening startup working on early detection of breast cancer. So breast cancer, if you know, is a leading cause of cancer deaths in women, especially, and 1 in 17 women have a risk to develop breast abnormality in their lifetime, according to WHO. And the survival rates in India and other developing countries is just 50%, because women wait till they have a large lump and then they tell the family members or go to the hospital. And so what the real need now is to have an early detection and early diagnostic solution, which helps women for enabling them to have an early detection of the breast cancer, if any. So there are around 500,000 deaths per year. So it's a huge number that we are looking at. And we have the potential, we have the opportunity to save thousands of lives through early detection and early diagnosis. So just to understand some of the gaps in the current screening methods. So the current gold standard of breast cancer screening is mammography. So mammography is a test for screening recommended to women above the age of 45 years of age. And and also it doesn't show, it's difficult to interpret the mammograms of a woman who has dense breasts. So this is also one of the limitations we are trying to address through our solution. And there is a gap in affordability, accessibility, and also there is some amount of radiation exposure for which a woman can't go for frequent screenings when it comes to in mammography. And also there is a pain because in mammography, some pounds of pressure is applied on the breast for the compression. So there is an element of so it's this element of pain during the process that the patient goes through. So the current solution that we have developed at Niramai, so our founder, Dr. Geeta Manjunath, who is a computer scientist, she had this idea of using artificial intelligence and machine learning on thermal imaging. So thermal imaging, if you can see on my on the right side of the screen, so this is kind of what the thermal image looks like. So these are basically temperature readings that we capture. So it's the infrared radiation from your own body that we try to capture, which is around in the 7 to 14 micrometer wavelength. And we use this temperature points to understand whether there is an abnormality in the breast corresponding to any sort of malignancy that we try to detect using algorithms on these images. So thermography has been a kind of technique that was historically used in breast cancer screening, but the problem with that was it's hard to interpret it manually because it's kind of complex and leads to a lot of false positives. So because of the heat patterns, it's kind of difficult for a thermographer and to scale it to that many thermographers to be effective enough to interpret thermograms. So we thought, so our founder and the founding team, they thought of why don't we use AI to sort of handle this challenge and increase the accuracy of thermal imaging. So what's the best part of thermal imaging is it's a non-contact and a very privacy-aware solution. So nobody is going to see you or touch you while you go and do a breast cancer screening. So it doesn't have any kind of radiation. So it's just the temperature on your own body that is being recorded to understand some kind of abnormality that the breast might have developed. And because we look at the abnormality on the tissue level, so even before a lump is trying to form, we will be able to sort of predict any kind of abnormality given the changes in the tissue level. And it works for women of all ages. So as you all know that mammography is recommended to women above the age of 40, 45, and one cannot go for frequent screenings or follow-up screenings with mammography. So this is quite safe solution, Niramai, through the thermal imaging, thermalytics that we call it in our product is thermalytics. So it's kind of very safe and solution for women to go through and a painless experience for women to go through and do a screening. It's affordable, it's portable and very light screening device. So whenever there is a mass screening camp that's going on, so our technicians just carry the camera, the thermal sensor, and just a laptop device to get screening done. So it's very portable and a lot of screenings can be done through our device. Currently we are available in more than 50 plus hospitals and diagnostic centers. So if you can see, we have a deployment in this kind of van or a bus. Mobile screening is how we do through this mode. And we do both corporate screenings and rural screenings. So this is how the two modes we use to conduct screening, conduct mass screening in hospitals as well as in other rural screening clinical settings. So Thermalytics, which is a patented product by Niramai. So it's a fusion of machine learning and artificial intelligence on thermal imaging. So we use this sort of thermal sensor, like you see this portable camera that we use. It's a thermal sensor which records your own infrared radiation from your body. And these are all temperature matrices of temperature matrices that we try to use on our algorithms to understand the level of abnormality. So what currently we use our algorithms which try to understand if there is any sort of vessel activity. So whenever there is a tumor and it is malignant, a lot of metabolic activity takes place. So a lot of blood vessels activity takes place around it. And that's what we notice in a thermogram. If you can see, there are some blood vessels visible, and we look at symmetricity features. So if there is an abnormality, then not necessarily that the pattern of the thermograms will be symmetric enough. So it will be a little bit of, there will be asymmetric element of the thermograms that will help us understand, help the algorithms understand if there is any abnormality pattern on the thermograms. And there are also areolar features, hotspot features, like what is the irregularity on the hotspot. So there are a lot of statistics that we try to find out, all the different features that we find out from the mammograms to again find the output, whether it's abnormal or a normal thermogram. So there are two kinds of reports that is given by Niramai. So one is the community screening, where we are able to give a triaging kind of report, whether you need a follow-up or it's safe, you are normal. So this kind of a triaging report that we give, red, yellow, green, symmetry score, areolar score, vascular score, and ensemble score. These are all types of scores associated with the breast. Again, and there is also for hospital settings, as I mentioned before. So there are two kinds of settings. One is for a temporary screening setup, and the other is a full-time, a permanent setup in one hospital where we deploy our solution. So there the radiology certified reports look something like this, where we give the complete detail on each of the scores, whether there is any abnormality or so through thermobiological score and different other symmetry scores. So do we have questions here? So this is a question by Dinesh.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes. You can ask them, answer them.
Yeah, so Dinesh is asking, if it is thermal, can it be applied across the body for other cancers too? Yes, so wherever we see there is some significant heat signatures, and it can correspond to some kind of abnormality, but again, clinical studies and trials need to be conducted to really understand if those kind of heat signatures are actually signifying some kind of abnormality. But of course, it can be used on different parts of the body to understand different kind of diseases.
Okay. So are you done with your presentation, Minerva?
No, I'm kind of not able to navigate, so I'm just checking.
Oh, sure, that's fine.
So this is how the different views. So on the ground, so there are 5 images that we capture. One is the frontal, the other one is lateral, the oblique, on the total, both the sides, left and right, so that we have a total view of where we will be able to localize the tumor. Then if we have the proper view of the breast on both the left and right views, especially on the lateral views as well. So on the ground, a patient is requested to undergo cooling for around 10 to 15 minutes. Then, so that the body comes in equilibrium temperature with the atmosphere, and then we try to capture these 5 images to understand any sort of abnormality. So a patient needs to go through around 10 to 15 minutes of cooling before taking this procedure for a screening. So coming to clinical validation, so we have published papers on showing the efficacy of our solution on different segments of population, both symptomatic and asymptomatic. So if you can see on asymptomatic patients, we have 100% sensitivity. So it's really efficient on the asymptomatic patients to, again, enabling early detection, which is our motto. And also 92% sensitivity on the symptomatic patients who have lump, who have some kind of discharge. And this has been compared with a thermographer, mammography. So there are 3 clinical trials that we have already done and published. And more than 17,000 plus patients have been tested so far on the clinical and a proper clinical study kind of a setting. And we have 5 international clinical trial publications. We have been able to show that in some of the clinical trials that it is 27% accurate than mammography and 70% better predictive value than manual thermography, and have been able to find abnormality in patients without lumps. So coming into doing some deep dive into what kind of different machine learning architectures we use and what are some of the use cases within our company, within this domain of breast cancer screening using thermal imaging. So, so this is a VGGNet architecture that we use. The input to it is the breast with the segmented hotspot that we give it as a multi-channel input, and we get the probabilities from this. So this probability is actually correspond to the level of abnormality in the patient. So this is a single breast, so it's a breast-wise score, abnormality score that we are able to give on the report. So again, the feature extraction process is done by using VGG16 based classification technique here. So the other case where we use machine learning is in view labeling. So as mentioned, we have 5 labels, 5 views for a patient who is undergoing screening. So the frontal, oblique, and left lateral, left oblique, right lateral, right oblique. So it's difficult for a technician. I mean, sometimes there are technician errors as well while uploading the images on the software. So we wanted a kind of a way which automatically kind of labels all these images so that there is no ambiguity while image uploading. So the uploading of the image happens via the experts or from the technicians onto our software, where on the back end, all the image processing and computer vision stuff happen to understand the patient images. So we have used a ResNet 50 architecture. So this is again as research by my colleague Shiva at Niramai. So the pre-trained, ResNet 50 architecture has been used here. A 5-class classification is done. So 5-class classification because we have 5 views, and we have been able to show that there is 20% increase in accuracy than the traditional image processing approach while doing the view-wise classification. So it automatically kind of predicts which view is it. So the other use case that we have within our module is for the ROI segmentation, region of interest, where we crop where the exact region of the breast is determined by using deep learning and machine learning methods. So for this use case, we use a VNet type of architecture, which is basically which is a variant of UNet architecture, where there is a encoding and decoding style of algorithm that is used here. And the exact region. So if you can see, the exact region of the breast can be automatically detected. So it's basically automatic segmentation of the breast region from the uploaded images. So on all the views, all the frontal, oblique, and lateral views, it kind of helps in automatically detecting the ROI region. And the dice loss is used to kind of evaluate whether the model is performing well or not. So this is how the ROI segmentation results look like. So there are this full thermal images, and we are able to exactly automatically segment out the different breast regions. So as mentioned earlier, mammography so mammograms are difficult to interpret, especially on a woman with dense breast, because what happens, the tumor looks exactly the same as the dense breast on a mammogram. So it's kind of difficult to interpret that. So women under the age of 40, they are, especially have dense breasts, and that's why the mammography is kind of not scalable for that age group. And we have been able to show that thermal imaging can also be used to estimate density of the breast. So whether it's a fatty breast or whether it's a dense breast is something that we worked on thermal images to classify it as whether a dense breast or not. So for that, we again used a ResNet 50 model. We have the ground truth labels from mammography and ultrasound reports, whether it's a dense breast or not. So we have the ground truth reports against which we train it, and we used a ResNet 50 architecture. By all the features from the ResNet 50 architectures are fed to a SVM classifier, and the probability scores kind of tell us whether it's a dense breast or not. So we have been mentioned, so this is our founder and co-founder, Dr. Geeta Manjunath and Nidhi Mathur. So there are a lot of awards and media mentions that we have got recently. So we have also a research grant from Bill and Melinda Gates to kind of scale thermal imaging to other kinds of diseases. Like there was one of the questions. So we are currently working on other kinds of use cases where thermal imaging can be used. And there are some other various awards that we have received. In 2019, Niramai was also awarded as one of the top 100 companies within the AI sector, and especially what is more worth note-taking is Niramai was one of the only company from India which got this mention from CBI Insights, so which is quite inspiring and motivating. So we are on a mission to save many, many lives. We have the opportunity to save many lives. And a solution like this, which is no-touch, privacy-aware way of doing a breast cancer screening, is what we want to get it to mainstream and working towards it. So that's something from my side. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take it.
Yes, thank you, Minerva. If you would like to unshare your screen, then we can move on to Q&A.
Sure.
Yeah, I see that there's a question from Dinesh. You're able to see that. And meanwhile, I'm going to bring in Sushma here. She's our co-host for today. She may have some questions as well. All right, there's a question from Dinesh about detection percentage. Are you able to see that, Minerva?
Yes, yes. So he says, hope that detection percentage only gets better with the increase in number of clinical trials using AI, isn't it so? So the accuracy will definitely improve when we have more number of images, and we are able to show through our clinical trials about the efficacy of the solution that it works. Even more number of screenings in general will help us get more data so that we can understand the pattern that correspond to abnormality, have more idea, of course, with more data in general as well. not only with clinical trials. I hope I could answer Dinesh's question. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, Sushma has probably a few questions. Meanwhile, if any of the other attendees has a question, please go ahead and use the Q&A button, or you can send that to us via chat. All right, go ahead, Sushma. Thanks for joining us.
Very interesting topic, very innovative.
Hi, Sushma.
Hi.
Thank you.
Very well presented. A few questions. How has the adoption been so far?
So, as mentioned, there are two ways of how we have deployed our solution. So one is the temporary setting where our technicians go and do a 1 to 2 days of screening camps in corporates or in remote rural screening camps. So so that's one way of operating. And the other way of operating is where the hospitals actually take our solutions permanently for years. And so around 30 plus hospitals have accepted our solution across the country. And we do corporate screenings and rural screenings, and we have screened more than 30,000 women in India. So that is how far we have been able to expand in India. And of course, going forward, we are looking at the scopes at different countries.
That's good. What are the challenges for adoption? It's like legal, government.
So basically, there are, of course, medical legal kind of limitations. So suppose from our, it generally comes with any new technology, and especially in medical science. Suppose there is a new technology and someone takes our screening and at the worst case gets a false negative. So she can sue the doctor, and the doctor has to now answer why she was deviated from the standard care model. So the standard now is mammography, and there is always a kind of standard care protocol for a particular disease. So for any new technology, for its adoption, it will take time, and there are challenges associated with it, both from legal and government side.
Is there another question? Good.
Yeah.
I think that's answered my question. Is there a self-care equipment available to test at home?
So we have been able to deploy our solution so it's still in clinical trials. So we have developed a mobile-based solution where it's like a selfie mode, like you take a selfie. So it can a selfie mode, you will be able to do a breast examination. So the same software that we have it on web, and where technicians are able to take the laptop and do the screening. So going forward, we are kind of envisioning that a mobile app can help you do a screening.
Just like take pictures,
self-screening.
Uploading, yeah.
Yes. So on the back, yeah. So the algorithms will remain the same. It's just the, you upload some pictures to the camera.
Okay, that's good. That is like more people can reach for that technology.
Exactly. That's how a lot of, and especially in this kind of COVID scenario where you are all, everyone is skeptical about going to a hospital and doing a screening. So these kind of apps will definitely is going to help. Screening apps is definitely going to help a lot of women.
That's nice. Which countries are already using the technology?
So currently we are in India. We are still working on doing the FDA and C regulatory approvals so that we can expand to different countries. And we are looking forward to expand in especially US and Japan. So, so that's where we are looking forward to.
Okay. What are your like short-term, long-term future plans?
So, so actually short-term wise, we definitely want to do our all regulatory approval. So that we can soon expand to different countries like US and Japan, so that a lot of women are able to use this solution, which is, again, I want to highlight, non-invasive, no contact, and a very privacy-aware solution. So how this happens is something I want to highlight. Is there's a screening camp. It's a covered kind of tent kind of setup where the women goes. No technician sees you. The technician is outside, and the pictures are taken inside that camp setting. So it's a very privacy aware of doing the solution, and we are very excited to take this kind of solution where women, especially like South Asian women, they are embarrassed of disrobing, and of course, so when nobody is going to see you, touch you, and a very non-invasive kind of a imaging that we are able to use. So a lot of women will be encouraged to go for screenings, regular screenings, so that we can save more and more lives.
Yeah, I heard
And
more women. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So I heard more women are not going to mammographs because it's very painful. And
painful. Exactly. So that is also something we have been addressed from our solution, because it's just a thermal sensor kept like some 3 feet away from you, taking some pictures. And with, of course, these are thermograms which are analyzed. So it's a very easy procedure for a end user to go through, is what we have been able to enable. And long-term goal wise is, of course, moving to other kinds of cancer, other kinds of diseases, and also specifically finding more information within the breast images to say whether this is the kind. So in breast abnormality also, there are various stages of abnormality. So we will be able to fine tune to those abnormalities and give more information to an expert or a radiologist or a thermographer to take decisions.
That's good. I have a couple of questions in the question chat. So why only 5 images per person? Any technical cost-effective reason behind it?
So 5 images per person is sufficient enough for us to get the whole information, because the lateral views, we have the oblique views, and we have the frontal views. So it gives the whole picture of the breast. So 5 images is kind of sufficient enough for us to do the analysis and correlate it to abnormality or malignancy here.
I read about mammogram. It takes like tens of pictures, I think.
So mammograms have actually 3 views: CC views, MLO views, and ML views. But of course, again, not sure about the 10 pictures thing, but of course there are 3 views that is taken by mammography, and we take 5 views so that all the portions of the breast is visible enough for us to do the further analysis.
And how much time does it take for the test to complete?
So the overall imaging procedure is 15 to 20 minutes, and the patient has to undergo 10 minutes of cooling. Before that, otherwise taking the pictures hardly takes any time. So it's just the cooling procedure. So a person is made to sit with the hands up like here over the head, and the cooling is done over the breast region, so that because we are noting the temperature values, right? So the body needs to come in equilibrium with the environment temperature. Otherwise, if she has just come from a workout or had a hot tea or something, the body will anyway be hot. So to just avoid poor imaging, a person should be undergoing a cooling procedure before undertaking this test. So it's like 10 to 15 minutes of cooling is sufficient per patient, and the overall time a patient might need is hardly 15 to 20 minutes for doing a breast screening.
How soon they get the results?
So the results from our computer generated algorithms is that instant itself. Like it takes not more than 5 minutes. But it has to, because this is a kind of an AI system that aids a radiologist or a thermographer. So it's the thermographer who again goes through each of the images and gives a opinion as well. And the algorithms also help in giving a score. So all this combined might take a day or so, depends on the thermographer or the expert there. Otherwise, when it is algorithmically generated report, it's spontaneous enough.
That's wonderful. There's one more question from the participants. How is the false positive percentage in direct comparison to mammography?
Yeah, so I would like to flash this Okay, I'll just give the accurate answer to it, because already this is a clinically published thing. Yeah. So the false positive rate is not more than, so the false positive rate in thermography is 30%. And in mammography, it's around the same. I mean, it depends. So the use case that we are really looking at is patients with dense breast where mammography cannot be used. So that's one of the limitations that we are comparing against mammography when it comes to deployment. Otherwise, it's more or less similar when it comes to false positive, but it's highly sensitive in younger women and sensitive for women with dense breast. So that's how we are able to address the limitations by mammography.
I think this concludes all of our questions.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you again, Minerva. It's a very, very important topic. A few weeks ago, we spoke about AI to combat malaria. As a company based in Israel, ZAP Malaria, and Arbel was the presenter. So talking about AI for good, that was an example, and I think this is a really good example as well. We wish you the very best. I think we will certainly hear more about Minerva in the near future. I'm just going to make the prediction right now because of everything that you have done and all the awards that you have already received. So with that, I don't see any other questions. I have put the website on chat if you would like to check out Minerva's company. It's niramai.com. And we will be uploading this recording on our Meetup website. And if you would like to share your email address, Minerva, I can publish that as well on our Meetup,
Sure.
if you don't mind. Yeah, Sushma, any final comments or questions? Thank you for joining us, Sushma.
Thank you. Thank you, Minerva.
Thank you,
All
Pramod
right.
and Shushma. That was nice.
Thank
Very
you.
nice talking.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll have another session next Thursday. You can check our Meetup page for more information. All right. Thank you, Minerva. Have a good day there.
Thank
And
you
good luck.
so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye, Sushma.